What happened? Recording is not yet started. Okay. Hi everyone, can you hear me now?
Yes, Swapnil, I can hear you.
Yes, I
Hello?
can. I can hear
Okay,
you.
okay. And you can see my screen as well?
Yes.
Okay,
Yep.
perfect. Okay. So we're talking about functions. Now, so far we've been only using the function, right? We spoke about print, type, len, right? And we did a lot of methods, right? Methods are again they are functions, right? We use list dot, right? String dot. Very recently we did set dot, right? Set dot union intersection. All of them are functions, right? Now we are going to learn to create our own function. Okay. So what is a function? We said that function has a predefined meaning, right? So I compare this with, let's say, your verbs, right? Because when you say smile, okay, you know what it means, right? So what do we know? Because first time you have heard about it, right? So when we say print, we know that, okay, print, you know, displays whatever you write onto your screen, correct? So we need to first define a meaning. We need to tell to everyone that this is what print means, okay? And then you keep on using every time. So it's like defining once and using it multiple places. And when you define once, you don't have to define it again and again, right? Because the meaning doesn't change, correct? So let's say I want to define a function, okay? So to define a function, we write def keyword, okay? Def is short form for define, okay? So I'm defining a function, okay? And I'm saying function smile. So I'm going to create a function called smile. Now, this is not inbuilt function, okay? It's not there. We are creating our own function called smile. So I said first we have to define it, right? We have to first tell everyone what it means. And when we says everyone what it means, you are not actually using it. You are only defining, right? So when you learn something new, right? It's not that you are using it, but you are learning it, right? And then you actually use it. So first we learn it, first we need to define it, and then we are going to, use it. Okay. Um, so let's say we put def smile. Okay. And here you need to add bracket, open and close. Okay, so you add bracket, open and close. Okay, and then you add colon. Okay, so def keyword, that's how Python knows that you want to define a function. You want to define, we call this as user defined function. User is defining it. Okay, so this is your user defined function, and you start defining using keyword def. So the moment you write def, Python knows that you are defining a function. Then you give a name to a function or verb, right? And then you give simple parenthesis, open and close, colon. This is how you write the first line of defining a function. Then you hit enter. Okay, and then you give tab space, okay, to indicate that whatever I'm going to write, okay, it has to be within this like function. Okay, okay, so just like we give indentation for loop and if conditions, okay, we give to indicate that whatever we are going to write is within this, right? So that's the first line. Okay, okay, so any questions so far? Okay, you write def function name bracket open and close. Now I'm going to write, okay, let's say,
I have a question.
yeah,
So the def is the keyword, right? For
yes, it's a keyword, yeah,
function.
yeah,
And the smile can be any word.
yes, that's the
Is
name
that
that
the
you're going to
definition of
define.
okay, that's the definition of the function.
The
Can
definition we'll be giving it now.
okay.
This is the name, okay? So, okay, so here what I'll do, I'll create a simple variable called text equal to, I'm giving triple quotation. Triple quotation, you can give multi-line text. Okay, so let's say I copied a simple poem from ChatGPT. Okay, so I ran ChatGPT in parallel and I got this text, let's say. So what I just did is, okay, and I can push this also here. Not required because anyway, this is part of your triple quotation, right? So I created a variable text. I'm adding a set of value to it. And now I'm going to say print text, right? So what I did, I created function called smile. Inside that, I added a text, okay? Triple quotation indicates multi-line text. Added a multi-line text. And now I'm saying print text. Now, when I run it, what will happen? Nothing will happen. Because this is defining, right? When you define something, okay, like when you're learning about smile, you don't start laughing, right? You don't start smiling because you're learning about it. But when I tell you smile, that's when you'll start smiling, right? Okay, so let me give a tab space here also so that now it should all appear in same line. Okay, so now you see, okay, we have defined it once and wherever you use it, okay, let's say I call it again. I call it again. Okay, and you see, it's repeating that many times. So you define it once and you can use it again and again. That's why we said, first, when you define what it means, okay, you can use it multiple times, multiple places. So this is how you define a function. Simple, isn't it? Okay. The logic that you want to be repeated, that you put inside this colon here, something like this. Okay. So now I want to write a function to, let's say, add two numbers. So I'm saying, okay, write a function to add two numbers. Or let's make it little challenging. Okay, let me, there is a there's a file I have. I think I've added this to your assignments earlier. We'll do that assignment. Let me open that assignment page. I know, system has become slow. I need to restart it. Yeah, let's do this. Okay, let's do the first program here. This is part of your assignment, right? A company offers dearness allowance of 40% of basic pay and house rent allowance of 10% of basic pay. Input basic pay of an employee, calculate her DA, HRA, and gross pay. Gross pay is basic plus DA plus HRA. Okay. Now, okay, so we'll do this and then we'll create a function for this. Okay, so let's do this. So I'm going to go back to our program. How do I share it here? Okay, so I'm going to move this to different file. Okay, so now let's do this. So, what I'll do, okay, I'll say def calculate gross pay like this. I'm going to create a function. And here I'm going to say, now here we need to provide basic salary, isn't it? So I'll say basic salary equal to say 5,000 or 50,000 or let's say 5,000. This is your basic salary per month, let's say. Now, what we know is HRA, right? So HRA is 40% of this. So HRA equal to 0.4 into your basic salary. Okay, so HRA is 40%. No, DA is 40%, HRA is 10%, sorry. HRA is 10%, so 0.1. And DA is 40%, so 0.4 into 0.4 into basic salary. So your gross pay, okay, is going to be basic salary plus HRA plus DA, right? And now you say print your gross pay is, and then you say gross pay, right? Now when I run it, obviously nothing will happen. Okay, because this is the definition. Now I'm going to call it. So I'm going to call this as calc gross pay bracket open and close. Now when you run it, you see, this is the gross pay 7,500. Okay, based on this, it has calculated. Okay, so this is how you define a function. So, okay, I can say, okay, now I can say something like this comment, right? Function to calculate gross pay, right? And when you run it, okay, you get this. Now, let's say, okay, I also, okay, we'll do later. First, let's see different forms of this. Now here, okay, your calculate gross pay actually creates these values, okay, and then displays the output. Now let's say you don't want to display the output, okay. Instead, you want to use it for some other purpose. In the sense, you want to give um, this output to calculate bonus, let's say. So I don't want to display the total gross pay. I want to give this to something else. Okay. Now, when you create these functions, your objective has to be to create functions which are, which can be used multiple places, isn't it? Which can be used at multiple places. Because when you define such function, okay, and if it does not find usage, multiple places usage, then there's no point of creating a function. Function, the reason why we create function is because we want to make it, used multiple places in multiple forms. Now, if I give this print statement here itself, I'm restricting the output of this function. Okay, this function will be used only when this is the exact output that you want to do. But let's say this is not the kind of output. Probably put different kind of text here every time. Let's say I want to take the name of the person, and then I want to display, okay, your percentage is so much. Or I want to put it in a dictionary, I want to put that in a list. Then this is of no use, because here your value is not getting into a list. Right? I cannot use this in a list. I can't put this in a customized message. I have to use function with a specific message only. So in that case, what I can do is I will remove this, okay, and then instead this function will return us a value. Okay, so what I'll do here, I'm going to create second type of calculate gross pay. I'll say calculate gross pay with return. So in this case, okay, you don't do print. Instead, you say return gross pay. Okay, so when you say return gross pay, this function will return gross pay. So when I call this function, this is how you call this function, right? Now this function, when we call, this will actually give us gross pay. So I can say GP equal to, okay, gross pay equal to. Now what it does is this function calculates your gross pay and has returned the gross pay to you. You do whatever you want to do now. So I can customize it. I can say total gross pay for ABC is, GP, or you want to create a new list. Okay, GP list. Okay, you want to add to this, you can say GP list. Okay, dot append GP, right? Now, what I'm trying to say is, okay, when you get this outcome here, okay, now it is up to you how you want to use it. Okay, you can use it in different way. So, second function, okay, will find more takers than first function. Exactly same thing. Just because you have a print statement here, okay, this function kind of restricts itself that wherever you want to do print, only then you have to use this function. Other places you cannot use this. Now this function can be used anywhere because it is returning gross pay to you. Now in your program, we call this as main program. Okay, this is your main program because when we run this, okay, file, which is the first line that gets called, okay, def is only for definition, so they don't get called. Okay, this line of 16 is the first line of the program that gets called. Line number 16 is the first line of code that gets called. So when you say okay, this is the first line, GP equal to calc gross pay, bracket open and close. It says, okay, we are going to call a function. It goes and checks the function above line number 16. So also, okay, you have to first define, then use it. I cannot use and then define, obviously, right? Because when you don't know what calculate gross pay is, how can you use it? So always definition has to be above usage. Okay, if I'm using it here, okay, because the program, okay, your Python program will always look upward for the meaning. So when I put print here, okay, line number 16, Python will again look upward, print. It is not there. It is not there in this file, then it will go and check in different files. But first it will check in same file upward. Okay. So line number 16 is the first line to get called. Then it says, okay, gross pay with return, it goes up. Then line number from 16, it goes to line number 9. Then from 9 through 14. Then comes back to 16. Okay, it starts from 16 and return will throw it back to 16. It comes to 16 and now GP has the value from this. So when you say return something, that something goes to this value. When you say equal to, okay, variable equal to function name, this value goes into this. Now you have the value of gross pay in your main program. Okay, you do whatever you want to do with it. You want to add to a list, you want to add to a dictionary, you want to print it in a different text format, you want to print it along with name, you want to print it along with company, or year, whatever you can do. Okay, it's up to you. Function is not restricting you from doing some specific things only, right? So this is how we write a generic function, correct? So this is, okay, this is a simple function to calculate gross pay. This is again simple function to calculate gross pay, but here difference is that it is giving you a return value. Okay. Now let's look at third case. In third case, okay, let's say your basic salary, okay, is coming from somewhere else. Okay, you're not directly adding basic pay. Your basic pay is coming from some other source. That means, you have done some calculations and then, finally you got basic pay. Now here you see, okay, these two programs, every time, okay, you are declaring basic pay here. Whether I give directly 5,000 or I do input, doesn't matter, right? You're taking the value, a new value from here. But let's say, your program is something, that, that there is a list of gross pay, let's say, okay, or basic pay. Okay, there's a list of basic pay, 3,900, 5,000, 6,500, okay, 9,000. Now let's say, okay, these are your basic pay list. I want to calculate HRA, DRA, and gross pay for each of these values. Now in this case, again, both these functions becomes useless. Correct? Because in both these functions, you cannot pass a value because here it takes its own set of value. You're not able to pass the value. And again, you see, there are some restriction to here also. See, output, fine, you have generalized it, okay, so that, you don't worry about how to display the output. But input now, you are restricted. Okay, so can we generalize input also? Yes. So now I'm going to say def calc gross pay, okay, return input. I'm just giving some name, okay, just to differentiate from the other functions. Now what happens here? I want user to provide the input. That means the main program will provide the input. You are not adding input within the program. You are adding input from outside. So here, okay, since I want to learn, the input is given from here. Output from function is, given using return keyword. Return means I'm saying, okay, take back. Okay, here the input to the function is given through input here. So I'm going to say BP, basic pay. It expects that when we call this function, we provide this BP. If you don't provide, then this function will throw error. And now what I'll do here, okay, let's basic salary here, okay, so that I don't have to change the code. I can simply copy the code from here and paste it here. Okay, so basic salary, we are not defining within the function. Where are we defining? No, we are not defining. We expect the caller to give us the basic pay. We expect the caller to give us the basic pay. So now if I have to say here, say GPay1 equal to, because GPay1 equal to, because this also has return, correct? This also has return. I want to catch this value. So calculate gross pay. And now when you run this, okay, it'll give you error saying gross pay return input missing one required positional argument basic salary. It says that you have missed one because we have only one variable here. Tomorrow we'll see, not tomorrow. Next week when we connect, we'll talk about, how many variables we can do, what is required, what is positional. Okay, we'll have to talk about it. But for now, you see, it says you have missed one argument, basic salary. You have not provided basic salary to it. You have not provided basic salary to it. I need to provide some value here. So I'll say BP list of, let's say 3, I guess. So when you give BP list of 3, that means 6,500 is passed to basic salary. Okay. And now when you say, okay, basic sal or gross salary, right? Gross pay for this month is, and then you say GP1. Because GP1 gets a return value from here. And when you run it, okay, it says gross pay for this month is 13,500. Okay. So this is different compared to other two because here we are not assigning the value to basic salary within the function. We are passing to the function. We are giving to it. Now, how we get it, we don't have to know. Okay, it could come from list, it could come from various other sources. You don't have to worry. Okay. Now, if you look at all these three functions, this is the most generalized. This is the most accepted form of writing function because here you don't care how the input comes. You don't care where the output is going. My job is to calculate gross pay. I will calculate the gross pay and give it to you. You do whatever you want to do. I'm not bothered about the input, how you get the input. You give me the input, I'll do the job, right? It's like, I like to compare this with shops. Let's say you want a photocopy, right? So you go to a photocopy shop, right? Stationery shop or photocopy shop and say, okay, this is the original, give me a photocopy. The guy behind that machine doesn't have to worry about, what kind of document it is, from where you got, from where you have come. He said, okay, give me the document and I'll give you photocopy. You don't worry about what I do. The guy will say, you don't worry about what I do, and I will not worry about what you gave me. Correct? Okay. So functions are also used to hide the implementation detail. Now, when you're using it, you don't know, okay, like when you're using print, for example, we don't know how many lines of code print function has. It has 1 line of code or 20 lines of code or 30 lines of code. We don't even know. We don't get into the implementation detail, right? We don't have to focus on implementation detail. You don't need to know what kind of photocopy machine that guy is using, what is the, color and cost. And he said, okay, this is the input, this is the output, okay? That's what you are interested in. So that's another reason why we use function. We want to hide the implementation from the user because it makes it more clumsy and sometimes complex. Okay, so we have seen 3 types of functions. Okay, function which doesn't take any input value, input parameter, doesn't return you. Everything is calculated within the function. Then we have a function which returns a value. Then we have a function that takes input and returns a value. You can have a function which only takes the value, no, no return value. I can say the same thing and I can have a print here, right? But remember, try to use this third form, okay, where you're taking the input from the user and you're returning the output to the user so that user handles them on their own terms and conditions. Make sense? Okay. So today we'll stop here.